Hello and welcome back. Today we are going to be focused on liberalization in our Spain beginner tutorial playthrough, where we show every single game action, explain our thought process, and have one individual theme for every episode. We're going to be focused on a liberalization that involves bringing our pops new and increasing rights in the form of laws. Of course, we have a ton of laws to pass, namely, we got this one. We have a bunch of laws we need to pass, but also we're going to be focused on increasing the standard of living of our pops, increasing the stratification of our pops in terms of bringing more and more of them to the middle class, and also increasing the trade and, I think we already said, standard of living, but you need good old-fashioned trade for good old-fashioned economic liberalism, and so this is what we're going to be going for. I think to kind of open up, we have been engaging in the process of industrialization, where we've been moving pops from being peasants to being gainfully employed, and then the gainfully employed pops we have been using and beginning to introduce labor-saving PMs, which allow us to not need laborers. And as we don't need laborers, these pops will in turn become employed in new buildings, and so this is increasing our density of middle class. And I just wanted to show this kind of as we go. You can see the population of the lower strata in Spain. It is going up because our population is going up because we are engaging in stuff to increase migration. This is one of the reasons to liberalize, but our middle strata is going up way, way, way more. This is because we are turning on labor-saving PMs more and more. Now, of course, because we know we're going to economically liberalize, eventually we're going to need oil, so we're going to go for Iraq. But the bigger reason why we're going for Iraq is we want to pull them into our power block because we want them to be a state that is going to give us adjacent trade routes. This is the reason why we subjugated Siam some time ago. If we take a look at our market tab, we can see that we have free overland trade with Great Qing. We want to give free overland trade with both the Ottomans and also Russia, so we'll have to peel off a little bit from Persia here, but trade is going to be a huge driver for us increasing standard of living, which you see coming on up. And one of the reasons why, if we take a look at trade routes, if we take a look at the stuff that has the absolute highest units, you'll see, hey, we're importing a whole lot of grain. Okay, we're importing a whole lot of fish, basic clothing, basic furniture, and if you take a look at the lowest strata, the strata that most informs your overall country's standard of living, because we have 14 million of them and only, 3.5 million of the other ones, you will see that their most basic consumption needs are these trade goods. And so increasing trade, and specifically trading in such a way to increase standard of living, is part of what we are doing here. Portugal wants to give us foreign investment rights. This is fantastic because we are trying to pull them into our block, so this will help out. We do have a little bit of choices in terms of principles, what principles we want to go for. Advanced research would be good. I think what we're going to go for is freedom of movement. We want to allow everyone to come to our country. We are intentionally hurting or playing off meta in the sense that we are not expanding, we are playing tall, and part of this is going to create problems for us because we need more population. By getting freedom of movement, we're going to get additional migration quota, which is going to allow more pops to come to our country. And so we see that someone sides against us, or a couple people side against us, Egypt and Sweden. That's fine. These guys are worried, and we will see. We could call Mexico. We could transfer them subjects. I don't think we want to do that. Let's see what Diplopact they want. They want a bankroll. We're not too interested in giving them a free bankroll. I think we're just going to call ally Mexico. They will not be the most useful ally, but they won't be the most useless ally either. And we are going to go for putting in several different things on these guys. I think we're going to put in war reparations on Iraq. And if we put stuff in on Egypt and Sweden, they will not naturally enforce out. So this is a little bit of a decision point regarding what we want to do. We could liberate countries. We could liberate subjects. I think that we will just want to humiliate any sort of rivals we have. I did not realize we were rivaled to Sweden. Can we land them comfortably? Perhaps not, and perhaps we just let them decay out. If we leave it here, eventually Egypt and Sweden will decay out of the war. If we put war goals on them, they will not decay out of the war unless we do something to decay them. So I think actually we're just not going to put anything in on them, and we can't put any additional war goals in on Iraq, so I think these will be the war goals that we have. Anti-Austrian Association gives us an opportunity to provide military assistance. We're not going to do that because that deletes money from our economy, and one of the ways in which we are starting starting to come on up and able to pass laws faster is our political movements, as well as our slow start overall for the run. Our run started off slow. We didn't create a lot of angry interest groups, and as a result, we kind of developed a big, loyalist population by taking the laws slow initially, which isn't exactly what I recommend. We're a little bit behind on the laws, but what this means is this high loyalists means we haven't gotten any sort of reactionary movements that we've had to deal with in terms of revolutions. We will avoid giving grifter to our guy and instead just take some enactment chance. We're getting there anyways. But we have really strong and good-looking movements. We're specifically suppressing this movement because we do want multiculturalism in this Spanish supremacy movement, and we are boosting the radical movement, which is going to allow us, or it's kind of, maybe we actually don't want to bolster this now anymore. We're going to stop bolstering this group because the law that we really wanted to get in was census suffrage. There's actually an achievement for Spain, Bourbon for everyone, getting SOL to 20, and I think even though we've gotten this achievement before, we're going to play us so as to get it, and the only kind of thing that we also want to pass on here is public schools, so we don't necessarily need that much more help from this group. So why don't we instead temporarily put this up, and we are going to start to do some stuff to boost up our country a little bit more in terms of getting a more migration. I think we just have a few other kind of states that we need to get more migration in. We have 3 more edicts we will need to get eventually, and then we will be maxed out on the migration attraction. Unfortunately, people cannot come to our country yet. Not as many people as we would like, because we are both highly discriminatory and we have migration controls. So these are the 2 ways in which we kind of need to get on liberalizing first, once we enact census suffrage. The war has started. We're going to mobilize our 2 defensive armies, which is going to, they're just going to stay put in Iberia. They're just going to defend against naval landings, and then with our 30 stack naval landing army, we are going to wish that we had beat the Philippines to landing in Bastara, but I guess we won't. Eritrea, if I recall correctly, is in a different strategic region than most of Egypt, so why don't we get over there and try and start enforcing on them a little bit better than we can before. Now, with trade, we haven't updated our trade routes in quite a little bit, and we have a little bit of a new paradigm where we are going to focus on importing basic clothing and basic furniture, in addition to some of these other things. So why don't we take a look at how we can, this sometimes gets a little bit messy in regards to sometimes the stuff doesn't cooperate. Here, Mexico's requesting military assistance. We will say no, but we do want to import these basic goods. We will import them from Qing and the British, and also basic clothing. Just to kind of boost SOL a little bit, we'll look at grain as well. We're looking for anything that is going to be above level 1 in particular. If we put in too many trade routes, this will cause lag, so we're going to do that. And also, we want our textile mills to be more profitable, as well as our furniture manufacturers. So we're going to look to export the price, the luxury clothing and the luxury goods. This will increase the price of the good. If we take a look at one of these, if we decrease the price of one good and increase the price of the other, the net is we will still have a decent weekly balance, but by managing the trade in this way, we can make it so that our standard of living will be better for the lower strata, which will give us a better average, and worse for the higher strata. You can see already some things we've done have started to make pretty significant changes here. We are pushing through Egypt because they don't believe in defending their country. That's unfortunate for them. Really quickly. Oop. And this is perhaps why we maybe would have wanted to intervene in here, but I guess this will be fine for us. We don't end up doing it, but we could have intervened on the behalf of Great Britain, and I think that the landing has failed into Iraq, so now we can properly land it, and we can have a little bit of a think. Why don't we land it with our bigger army here? And we see, hey, we could use a few more generals here. Now, we do want to boost up certain interest groups, and are interested in doing that. Specifically, the trade unions will help us to liberalize quite a lot here. We're going to take on this traditionalist. He isn't popular, so he's not likely to become leader, and also, he does have a good defensive trait here, and we're going to put him on adamant defense. Does this guy also have a defensive trait? He does, and so we're looking for someone to be offense. I guess we'll take this guy. He doesn't have a good offense trait, but he doesn't have a bad one. We see another guy who's a defensive specialist. We're going to recruit him into here because this is a defensive army, and we just want to cycle through some generals looking for something a little bit better. But let's take more of a look at trade. So we have also been trying to build taller and taller, specifically with the tools, as well as the mines. We do have companies for mines, and we have a new company slot available now, and we also do want to specialize a little bit in tools. So why don't we could have a little bit of a decision point. It would be decent to go into this company as well with the furniture manufactories and the glassworks. Specifically, furniture manufactories is going to give us more consumer goods that we can build ourselves. Quite tempting to do the one of Toledo. This is a company here, La España Industrial, is a company that is unique to Spain. We'll probably use it with our next company slot, but right now, if you take a look, we have 51 tooling workshops, right? Tools is far and away the most common thing in your market, and so if we have 51 tooling workshops and we think that we're going to acquire more tools, which we are, this is going to represent a much larger share of our economy under this, and so we're going to establish this tooling company here, and so now we have tools to a little extent under company and a couple other things, so we're going to also look to export those things. So we're going to look to export coal. We have coal companies. This will make them more profitable. It won't lower standard of living because everything we have inputs for coal on is not part of domestic consumption except for heating at a very small amount. Instead, it's mostly in industrial goods. So those will make those buildings slightly less profitable, but the coal mines way more profitable. We'll do the same with iron, and we will also look to do this with tools. Now, we will be able to run much more routes as we acquire more adjacencies, and so we will be able to run a bunch of routes against the Ottoman Empire soon, just as soon as we can conquer them, or just as soon as we can get Iraq, because we will have an adjacency to the Ottoman Empire. If you take a look at where we are doing a lot of our volume, it is with all these partners we have trade adjacencies to, which means we get to run the first 4 to 5 routes for free. We have an adjacency to the UK in Gibraltar. I think we have more than one adjacency. We have an adjacency to France because we're right next to them. We have an adjacency with Qing from this over here, Siam, which we subjugated. We have one with them in Brazil, which we're working on, and we also are about to acquire Ottoman Empire adjacency, Russia adjacency shortly thereafter, and this is going to function quite nicely for us. Let's take a little bit of a look at our power block, how things are coming along, because we are starting to get quite a bit of leverage over some other countries. We are trying to pull these in diplomatically, the same that we did to Mexico. Mexico, whom we are going to be able to soon subjugate with the subjugate interaction. They have to be a subject of us. They have to be a subject of us. They have to be a member of the bloc for 5 years. They have not been a member of the bloc for 5 years yet, and so we cannot turn them into a subject. It's also the fact that they're a part of a diplomatic play. We see Austria join here, and this is maybe an inflection point. We have a rivalry with Austria. So, in terms of our approval rating of these anti-Austrian association, which the Intelligentsia is one of them, they would like it if we rumbled with Austria. It's also more likely that more of our interest groups join this anti-bloc if we come in here. And we see, what's this? It is a big play. That is a big one. Or Austria is involved in 2 plays, because we can see the red lines here with Prussia. Why don't we take a look? It looks like they are perhaps involved fighting them, and they do want to rumble with these guys. Well, why don't we look at what war goals we could get? We could get liberate subject, liberate country, notably. We don't see Hungary in there. We could go for humiliation. We could go for war reparations. Austrian war reparations would not be bad. We wouldn't necessarily have to participate too much. France is likely to put them in themselves. But why don't we go for Austrian war reparations here and see how this shakes out. Now, our rivals and such are going to be quite likely to participate, but this will also get some French. We see humiliate Spain, conquer Alsace-Lorraine as well. A little bit of an interesting vibe, but France is going for this stuff here, which is why they started the play. And I guess to some extent we kind of would like the freedom of Algeria, but that's going to be something for another time, I suppose. Egypt's out. They got enforced out because we occupied a whole ton of them. Sweden will eventually tick out. We don't have a war goal on Sweden. Sweden doesn't have one on us, and Sweden probably doesn't care too much about this war in its entirety. I think what we're going to do is we are going to station these guys in Iberia. Perfect. They can defend fairly well, and we're just going to contribute a little bit of troops in our defensive armies to each of these fronts. Or actually, to this front over here, we're going to contribute both of these guys. Actually, we're going to leave one at home, just in case things get weird and we want to do a landing and we forget that we do not have a guy available. Census suffrage is about to come through, so that's going to be kind of the first thing. Taking a look at our pops are still coming up quite nicely, but we can currently only get migrants that are really, really close to our primary culture. And so this is something we want to move towards. So I think the next law we go towards, I think we did finish an election just recently. The next law we go towards will be trying to get, don't like this. The Progressive Party, unfortunately, is a little bit weird. Well, hopefully the clout is a little bit better. We're looking at trying to put the Industrialists in, because we need the Industrialists to eliminate migration controls. Other than, I think that we might have some approval. Yeah, this approval is from, it's effectively bugged out in the UI. It's from extra enactment chance we've gotten off of census suffrage, so we don't have any group agitating for that. But why don't we come into law tech and think about what we want to get next? Shift work is maybe not what we wanted to do next, but it is going to be fine enough, a tech. I think we're going to go for rotary valve engine next because this is a labor-saving PM. It decreases the number of laborers. We will be able to promote effectively more of our population to the middle class. Because we're out of peasants, we can't turn peasants into workers, and instead what we can do is we can turn laborers into more skilled workers. And so this is going to be a good one for us because this is going to feature in a lot of industry. We're also going to want to maybe get some of these more social-oriented laws, which will allow new movements to spawn, ones that care about things that we want to pass. Stuff like human rights into feminism might be appealing, but we would suffer kind of a big penalty here because we do have some society tech that we need, so we'll avoid doing it. We won't go for that with Brazil. Quito is requesting military assistance. We'll say, nah, we're not about that life, and we are going to just about enforce here on Iraq. Now, once we enforce on Iraq, we do want to make sure that we are improving relations, keeping in mind that our bloc is going to lose cohesion from people who have high liberty desire and don't like us. Iraq is probably going to be in that boat. Argentina is currently in that boat, so why don't we make sure that we improve relations? Can we do anything else? We can evangelize, which is going to lower their liberty desire, so that's going to be good as well. It will also help them to convert, and I think what we're going to do here is we're going to need to go for this state. Now, I'm not sure we can, as a primary war goal, declare for Iraq. We want to feed Iraq that state, so we'll have to declare that in another war. Census suffrage is about to pass. Surely we're handsome enough to roll a 67%, so after we bink this, we will, of course, be coming in and trying to figure out something else. Now, let's take a quick look at our clout and see if our clout is shifted over. We could do this. This would be fine, and we would be able to, from here, I think, come on in, and we could get rid of slavery. We could do that, but why don't we get no migration controls first? The petite bourgeoisie in particular aren't going to like this, neither will the rural folk. The other thing that we could do is we could move in this direction, and then we would discriminate against fewer people, and that would also be a way of ingressing here. Why don't we take a look at who's in charge of the petite bourgeoisie, and if we can maybe do something about them. So they currently have a traditionalist who likes state religion, legal guardianship. Why don't we could go for a radical here. Good old Francesc. Do we have our promote cooldown? Grant leadership is on 27 months. It's a little unfortunate. We could promote these guys to government, and then the petite bourgeoisie would be really happy with us because the radicals like census suffrage. The thing is it's going to take us a really long time to pass no migration controls. And I'm not sure that from a time perspective, it's the most effective thing we could do. We could go for, there's a lot of different other laws we could go for. The most straightforward would be dedicated police, which is likely to pass quite quickly, but the marginal value there is not so much, and it's also not really in line with us trying to liberalize. I think that maybe we just ban slavery here, actually. Who dislikes that? The landowners, but we don't care what they think because the landowners have finally dropped so low in clout that they have become marginalized here. So they are insignificant and unimportant, and so why don't we go for banning slavery, which is a good, nice liberal reform, and also take a look at what we can do here. We have a subject now in Arabia, so a result of getting Iraq, and so we don't like that. That's some ugly border gore. But with this subject in Iraq here, we are going to be going for this. I hope we don't have to take it ourselves. We might have to take it ourselves, which is a little bit unfortunate. But why don't we take a look at the trade that we can do. We now have a tooling company, so let's put that in, and let's come in on imports. We want to be less agrarian-oriented in general, which is kind of our paradigm here. We want to keep our arable land open so we can get more migration, and it's also our grain, our we don't have the best PMs for this type of stuff anyways. We are going to import that from the Persians, at least temporarily. Just taking a look through here, we're going to want to import rubber in the long term. We're just going to click those in, get those in right now. Tobacco, our lower strata is consuming quite a bit of it, so we'll look to decrease the price there. Also, as we decrease the price, our auto queue is likely, or is less likely to produce it themselves, which we, of course, don't want them to produce themselves. And then let's see if we can also export. Wood is really good to export, generally speaking, because it's a tremendous industry for depeasanting. We'll see if we can export hardwood as well. We can't, which is indicative of the fact that we probably aren't using enough hardwood PMs ourselves. So we're going to come in and we're going to make sure in our more industrial-oriented areas we put in some hardwood, because these places are likely to use and get inputs on them for furniture specifically, and so we'll do that. Why don't we put you on auto expand? And also rail transportation. We also want to bring more and more of our pops into middling strata because we are running out of pops, so we're going to swap everything over to water tube boiler. The tech we just researched increased the max economies of scale, and so what we're going to do, we're going to get general training up in here too. And then independent artists makes these buildings less profitable, but will increase the number of academics, so we'll do that. Cargo ports, of course, we want. And just making sure that we have good PMs here. But economies of scale cap increasing is definitely going to be an important one for specifically the universities, because now the throughput is 40%, because most of the cost is in wages. Really, really valuable to increase economies of scale on throughput. So we're going to put in on that. And we're going to see if we can declare any type of war on Persia that is reasonable looking. So we could go for investment rights. This is the cheapest on the infamy. The thing is we can't declare for this, conquer state on Tabriz, unless we are taking it for ourselves. So maybe this was a little bit of a mistake to go for Iraq, because we could have just subjugated Persia to get the whole shebang. Persia's an excellent country to subjugate in a general sense. And so, because there's a ton of resources here if you eventually annex it, if we just take a look at any of the places, this is, and there's a bunch of arable land, a lot of it's also unused, but you see a ton of these places have a ton of mineral resources, and so this place is going to be quite good, but we are not planning on annexing them, so it's maybe going to be not quite as good as we would like. We're taking a look what agreements we can get here. We can request investment rights with Brazil. This is perfect. We're going to stop funding lobbies here because we don't really need that anymore now that we have investment rights. Keeping in mind that we are going to get extra leverage from owning buildings overseas as a result of foreign investment, I'm not sure that we need the lobby anymore here, and so that'll be good for us. We are guaranteeing independence of several of these countries. Why don't we swap in this PM real quick? That way we don't forget it, because this is kind of how we roll if we don't swap in. Steamships did get buffed last patch. It used to be not that much better, but now it's very, very obviously better. France is pushing in here. They're going to enforce on Austria pretty shortly, and we are running a hell of a negative balance here. This might require a little bit of some adjustments. We are fully mobilized, and so maybe we want to demobilize at least a little bit. But instead of doing that, why don't we just capitulate here? Or no, wait, we don't want to capitulate. I was going to say, why don't we just capitulate because there's no war goals. But we actually have war goals for war reparations, and they have war goals on us. Are we ticking them down? We are, so it'll be nice once we get the war reparations. So we'll just stand these guys down. and we will put this 30 stack on the front to maybe accelerate this war a little bit, looking to save a little bit of money here. And we get a new mandate. Fantastic. Mandate are starting to flow in pretty quickly here as a result of us having quite a bit of tax. I think what we're going to do is in Castile and Navarra, which are the places that are attracting the most migration, we're actually going to put in auto expand on this. For this, the workforce occupancy has to be up high. We have to have a taxation capacity less than the amount required to maintain full taxes, and our bureaucracy has to go less than 10%. I think that us auto-expanding here specifically, these are going to be the places we run out of it first. So I think that this is going to be fine for us, and it's going to keep us, so that we don't have to necessarily micromanage this quite as hard as we otherwise would, especially because we're going to want to increase institutions as we get more and more pops to higher standard of living and promote more people from the lower strata to the middle strata from using labor-saving PMs. It's going to become better and better, or more valuable is every institution going to become on us. We see wildfires affecting our country, so let's take a quick look at that. We are going to get rid of some greener grass campaigns, and we are going to use emergency relief to get rid of these wildfire effects. I think that we will also make sure that we are getting the 25% discount on some of our states here. I'm not sure which state is going to be best next. I guess Asturias, we will put in this, which will kind of start to refund us some authority and get us closer to having every single one of our states underneath we're picking this underneath the migration attraction decree. I think that we are struggling to maintain plus 10 on the Intelligentsia approval. Oh, we're not. So we're going to do this, and we're also going to, now that we know the Intelligentsia approve of us quite strongly, we're going to decrease this, and now the budget's looking much better, although construction's not complete. So we will need to get some construction in. Unfortunately, our auto queue will not operate quite as well when we are getting a wildfires going, because negative infrastructure, if you have negative infrastructure, the queue will not like to pick things up. And so we're going to look where we have infrastructure problems, and we're going to look to solve them with our construction here. We're going to kick it to the top of the queue, holding Alt, so that it will go to the top. We know Toledo, it doesn't have a lot of pops, it doesn't have a lot of arable land, it's unlikely to get up and going, but we're going to add some railways at the back of the queue as well in places that have low infrastructure and are coming up, and this will get us up and going again. I think that we have a lot of authority here that is left over, so why don't we real quick increase this back up and put down another couple of these greener grass campaigns, and not forget to decrease this back down. We're going to pull out our hair a little bit in regards to Persia, but I think that we're going to subjugate Holstein. The thing is Prussia might not like this, but we want to get an adjacency with Prussia, so we'll look and see what will happen here. Austria is likely to side against us. USA is likely to side against us. If USA sides against us, we can maybe sway in Mexico to fight the USA. Belgium is likely to side against us, but it should be pretty easy for us to land here. The one that we would be concerned about is Prussia siding against us, but it looks like Prussia is not feeling it that hard, and this is going to give us an adjacency over there. But we do have an adjacency with the Ottomans, so we have some trade routes. You notice now they cost 0 convoys, effectively refunding us the convoys amount. So what we're going to do is we are going to export stuff to them that's really expensive in their market. Fertilizer might cause them to turn on PMs. I know I saw that it wasn't profitable, but we're just taking a look. Are we exporting this already? It looks like we might be. Can we export this? We can't. We can maybe import this, except it's always cheap for everyone. Looks like we can import this. Notably, the Ottomans are Muslims, so very often in the Muslim countries you can import liquor if they're using PMs to produce it, as it will tend to be underpriced because it is a taboo. So let's take a look. It doesn't look like we can hit it. Okay. Can we import this? We are already importing that, it looks like. Can we import these? A little bit of arbitrage. We can import some luxuries from the Ottoman Empire with the idea that we can increase our export routes as well. We are at the point where we're about to break free from this kind of sticky GDP threshold where the value of moving from 45 million GDP to 50 million GDP is really not worth a lot, which is part of why we're stalling out. We see Austria side with them. And we're also running out of places we can stick our ports. Not like this. Puerto Rico. I didn't realize Puerto Rico was our state. Shout out to being American. But should we incorporate it? Probably not. When you incorporate the state, it's going to pull down your average migration attraction. I think we want to keep like a little bit of a hold on our course here. Unfortunately, we're going to lose war reparations on Austria here because I don't think we are going to get another war with them. Actually, maybe we don't here. Transfer states isn't something we want to do to France. Obligations isn't something we want to give up. We can call ally them here, but I think we're going to hold up and see if USA sides against us as well. If USA sides against us, then we will have a bit of an opportunity here. So we are going to come in and take a look at Mexico. In Mexico, we can now sway in with war goals, return state on the USA, return Sinaloa. So this is going to be fantastic for us. And now we are in what is going to be kind of a close war. Also, a little bit of a legitimacy problem. We're going to decrease taxes a little bit in order to solve that. But since we are actually in what looks like might be a close war, we are going to look where we have peasants here. Just really quick. Because the peasants, we're more okay with peasants dying. We have them in South Cameroon. Okay, not other than South Cameroon, we have them in Navarra. And that's kind of it. So Navarra and South Cameroon. Okay. What we are going to do is we are going to pull back some edicts, or some decrees rather, some of the ones in the places that do not have minerals, and we know that Navarra was the one. Navarra's got good stuff going on. Well, we know that this batch of 3 here is going to be a little bit less effective, and what we're thinking of is where we use our enlistment efforts decrees, and we're going to use them here, and this is a very, very strong tool for beating wars that are otherwise a little bit close, and so we'll also put one down in South Cameroon, which we are currently colonizing. And by doing this, we will be able to conscript up way more. We will move our main heavy army over to the American frontier in order to deal with them. And what we are going to do with these guys is we are going to conscript up a whole bunch. This will make other parties much more afraid of you. You can see we can conscript a ton out of Valencia because we are using the edict. The base rate for conscription is going to be, sorry, not that one, but professional army gives a base rate of 1%. We get an additional 0.5% from National Guard, but what the conscription edict gives, if we take a look here, in addition to recruitment rate or training rate, it gives 5% conscription. So we're going from, in the 4 states we have it in on, we're going from 1.5% conscription rate to 6.5 conscription rate, which is an enormous come up, and it is going to allow us to leverage a really enormous army, which, as long as you're not super in the negative, you can turn into a lot of money, or sorry, you can turn it into a very large army. Unfortunately, we are a little bit in the negative, so maybe we actually just conscript up 80 or so, and then see if that's going to be enough, because the USA was not all that strong before. We will also mobilize our defensive armies. We are not going to be landing Austria here, and we'll see if we can maybe get something in that makes a little bit more sense. We don't want to bankroll, we don't want to give them some sort of rights, but we wouldn't mind giving an obligation on over to France, and I think maybe we do that just to get things a little bit smoother, and just so that we can enforce war reparations on Austria and America here, because I think we would like to have those. We are trying to protectorate Holstein. We don't really want them to back down at this point, so we're going to put in war reparations on Holstein, because even if they back down, we still owe an obligation to make it less likely that they back down. We get Mexico and France both with us here, and that should be a fairly straightforward war that we don't necessarily need to focus on too much. Establish foreign investment rights agreement. So this would allow us to establish investment rights a little bit better. We would be able to build overseas. Let's see who's in this buddy-buddy thing with them. Sorry, rather, if we take a look, this will boost the approval of both the trade unions and also the Intelligentsia. I think we're going to pass. This is not in our interest, largely because these guys are already super happy. Notably, workforce ratio is fantastic for us because the base workforce ratio is 25%. So this means for every group of pops, let's take a quick look at a pop here. Let's grab someone. It doesn't really matter who they are. These peasant, or let's grab not a peasant. Let's grab a machinist here. And we are going to go to them. For every group of pop, they are going to have a proportion of them that is an overall population, and then they are going to have some of these as workforce and some of these as dependents. The base percentage is 25%, unless I'm grossly mistaken, and it's actually 20%, but I'm pretty sure it's 25%. And so by what will happen is we will trend towards, if we're at 25% now, which we might not be, and we get this law passed, we will trend towards 30%. It'll be a new equilibrium, so that means for every group of population that is this population here, we will be getting 20% more workforce, and this will allow our pops to have a much higher standard of living, because with a higher workforce ratio, they will be getting more wages overall, and this will help to pull up the standard of living here as we continue to liberalize. But also, I think we are at 20% right now, and it might be because of legal guardianship. No, that's birth rate. You notably do get more workforce ratio from women's suffrage. I wasn't sure if it moved in the other direction. This is dependence income, because the children, of course, you don't send them to the mines except when you do. It looked like we had like 20% in that figure, but if someone gets hurt from a war or something like this, this can also decrease the ratio. I think that we are going to keep this squad for landing. Actually, we're going to take a look here. We don't necessarily want to land immediately. We see this is the only war goal on us, so we're actually going to not enforce on Holstein. We're going to look to do that a little bit slower. And again, remember, we're going after Holstein not because it's super valuable, but because we want an adjacency for Prussia, because we want to be able to shove more trade down their throat. This is called the art of colonization. But this is a little bit uncomfortable. We forgot to decrease the government wages again. Darn. I think we might be able to... We are on lower budget right now, so I think we actually can come in here and maybe come to the decrees and decrease... We don't want to decrease greener grass that much. I think what we're going to do is we're going to stop suppressing these guys. And we're doing this so we have a little bit more of this juice. Because we lowered taxes, and we weren't putting in more consumption taxes because our upper strata was running into problems in terms of minimum expected standard of living. Now they're well above it, so we can go back to taxing the upper strata of stuff. We're not taxing tobacco, even though it's very efficient per authority, because it's going to target the lower strata. Instead, we're going to put in on luxury clothes. And we could also put it in on opium, but the lower strata uses that too. We'll put on luxury furniture as well, and we'll bring that down. And what will happen is this will increase our tax rate quite considerably on the upper strata. You could see that went from 20 to 23, and we didn't increase too much the taxes on the lower strata, which is exactly how we want to play it. Did they back down? It looks like they might have backed down. In which case, with Holstein now in the Spanish market, this is going to be good for us. It also means that we should be getting our Diplopact from Austria. They are still paying us war reparations, hot damn. And now we are going to take a look at Prussia's market. Unfortunately, they're antagonistic. They might really hate that we hold Holstein. Is this what's going on? Do they strategically want Holstein? They have poor relations, and they view us as a natural enemy. I don't know if us holding Holstein is causing them to view us as a natural enemy, but we did want to be able to trade with them, and so we shall. And we are going to get this trade on the cheap, because we are going to be able to spend 0 convoys on this trade. And so we are just looking at what's expensive. We're going to export it from our market to them, and by doing this, we'll be able to make our stuff more profitable. I don't think we want to export. Could we export this? Perhaps. No, not really. And then we will import from them stuff that's really cheap. They don't really have cheap agrarian goods. I think they do have companies for these armed goods, which is maybe going to be a little bit better. In theory, you would want an import and an export on some of these goods. That way, it just kind of normalizes the prices a little bit. We're running minus 73k, but this is super okay. We have to add it with this number, so it's effectively minus 60k, but you can definitely run a little bit of a negative. We're almost over the hump here, this kind of like death zone of GDP. And so let's take a look at our whistle stop tour. We definitely want the Progressive Party to gain power, so we're going to choose this option. And we are going to have an election in 32 days, and the Progressive Party is crushing. Perfect. This is going to really help us out in our liberalization efforts here, because we are going to be able to get much more legitimacy once these guys crush the election, because census suffrage is the cause of a lot of legitimacy, is because of voting, but census suffrage is what we moved on to off of landed voting. So when we were doing landed voting, the Conservative Party, or the less liberal party, which for us is the Traditionalist Communion, and to some extent the Moderate Party, they were doing very well. But now that we're on census suffrage, which we got onto at the start of this episode, it changes how voting works. It's wealth-based voting, which notably, as we increase the standard of living, there's it's like a layered modifier on top of wealth, so it's wealth plus modifiers. So largely how we're increasing standard of living is by increasing wealth. As we bring the lower strata kind of on up to middle class, more of those middle class people are going to be trade unionists, more of them are going to be able to vote, and so this is going to cause them to get a lot more clout because they have to pass the wealth threshold and then they can vote. But it isn't just the people who are aristocrats, capitalists, clergy, and this type of thing voting. So we should see a pretty big clout shift on the trade unionists. We're going to reform the government. We're going to reform to this, much more legitimate. These guys, and we get the path to liberalization. Perfect. Freedom, equality, and brotherhood. So this is going to give us a little bit of an options. We can make this guy much more popular. He is a radical, and I do think he is in charge. He's not in charge of the government. We kind of would want to put him in charge of a government because he has really good trait in literary, which gives extra infamy decay. But we're going to keep on monarchy, at least for now, which is going to mean we're going to have to keep Isabel, because we kind of do want to get to the achievements, because that will be nice. We can change this person to off of traditionalist onto radical. I think that's a good idea. Or we could change the traditionalist onto reformer. I think we'll change the armed forces guy onto a reformer. I think this will be overall the most useful for us. I think this will be overall the most useful for us. Did we not change him to a reformer? Spineless traditionalist. Did we just misclick? Or did we misread? Maybe, perhaps we did a little bit of both, a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. In either case, the liberalization effort is coming along swimmingly. We do see another war kind of coming on up. If we wanted to reset attitudes with Austria, like let's say we didn't want to rival them anymore, we could side on this play in order to reset their attitude with us. We see GB is in this play. Let's check the GB's attitude. GB is cautious with us. So what we're going to do is we're going to come on over here, and we're going to just support unconditionally these guys. And now GB will switch to being genial with us, which is fantastic for us. It would make us easier for us to get a trade agreement if we didn't already have one, but we do have one. And this is the type of thing we would hope to get with Prussia, because Prussia has a really negative attitude towards us, which is going to make it hard to get a trade agreement with them, and that is something that we would be interested in long term. Let's take a little bit of a look at our power block situation, because we do have available mandate. I think we're going to go freedom of movement level 2 here, which is going to increase mass migration attraction. So this is a metric we have been very closely following for quite some time, so let's take a look at it. In the ledger, mass migration attraction, we've been rumbling, we've been fighting with the USA in order to have the most mass migration attraction. We can see we have 83, the USA has 58, but we still don't let certain types of people into our country. And so this is one of the problems with having migration controls. We are just dominant. It doesn't let us sort by this because it is bugged out at this current point in time. But if we scroll through here, you can see no one is even remotely close to us. And if we zoom out and look at the heat map, no one is remotely close to us. So we don't necessarily need to spend this here, but this will increase our mass migration attraction. So let's see what it goes up to with this plus 50% modifier. I'm not actually 100% sure if it is multiplicatively effective with other modifiers, and it does look like it is. We go from 80 to 125. So we have an obscene level of mass migration attraction. And so what we can actually do is we can think about, we have been putting in more taxes, specifically consumption taxes targeting the rich. We don't necessarily need that much in the way of decrees, certainly not this level of greener grass campaigns, and certainly don't need these military decrees anymore, actually. So let's get rid of these military decrees, specifically first, and then we'll have a little bit of a think, do we want to get rid of some of our greener grass campaigns? I think right now we have them in all the states that we have mineral resources, except for this one, and so we'll put that one down there, and then we won't increase them anymore, and instead we will start to tax the rich. Notably, I think we can stay in medium taxes instead of going back up to high taxes. This will give us more legitimacy. It will help us to create fewer radicals. And also, we will be taxing the upper strata a similar amount. We'll just be leveraging some of that in consumption taxes. And so I think overall this will be a little bit better for us. I think we maybe go fruit. The upper strata tends to eat, the upper strata are the ones who are eating the fruit. We can see taxes, 24%. That's about to take a little bit of a jump next tick, up a percent there. Let's take a look, make sure that they aren't consuming too much fruit. They are consuming quite a bit of fruit. Is there something we could do that would be better? That would be more upper strata oriented. I don't think that they're... Oh, well, coffee actually is. Coffee is a luxury drink, which is a more upper strata good, and porcelain as well. That combo is going to be nice for us. We are on the lower things here, and so now the budget is in pretty good shape. We're actually perhaps making a little bit of money, but that's partly because our queue is not completely full. And so let's take a look where we have peasants, because we are trying to make sure that we get rid of all the peasants as quickly as possible. And we see the only place is in South Cameroon, and we kind of don't want to be building in South Cameroon because we don't want to incorporate it. We don't want it long term. But what we could do is we could de-peasant them with the fishing wharves and the logging camps. This will maybe be okay. And then we can do pushing of economies of scale maybe a little bit in the capital. We're just going to look for the place that has our highest tooling workshop. It looks like it is in the capital, and so pushing economies of scale will be good. It's just so rough because we could really use some labor-saving PMs. We can push this, but the thing is we don't have any workers. So let's take a look at rotary valve engine. It is coming in relatively quick, and this will give us access to a bunch more workers. That'll be fantastic. So will steam donkey. That'll be extra good as well. This gives the steam donkey PM, which allows us to labor save in all of these mines, which is going to allow us to, again, raise the overall kind of trajectory of our society. We looked at this at the start, not that one. We looked at this at the start, where we were looking at the overall trajectory of population. You can see the population's coming on up, and indeed the population is coming up at a good clip, but the middling strata is coming up at a much more higher trajectory. Same with the upper strata, because we are using these labor-saving PMs and such. I think we'll do this option. We're getting pretty close to banning the slavery. We have relatively low infamy, and now we are going to have a little bit of a decision point. Liberate Hejaz is in there. The British Raj has some stuff. I think that it's possible we go and protectorate them. Now, who is going to get mad? For every infamy you accrue, you are going to get minus half that in relations with all these people. So we're going to get a huge relationship hit with like all of these people here. But it doesn't look like anyone sides against us other than Great Qing that we would be worried about. We could go for Japan a little bit. We have an obligation on them. The problem with Japan is we do have too good of relations with them. Let's put an interest in there. We could just go for one of the guys as part of us trying to... we haven't gone for these guys yet. Oh... We were in two wars on the same side as... we've been waiting for this opportunity, maybe slipping up a little bit in terms of attention. We wanted to go for this as soon as we were on the same side of a play as France. That is a little bit of a miss, because France can't join against us when we are sided in. Let's take a look at power block. Who else do we need to get in this region? We do have to go after these guys. They are part of the Wall Street Pact. Which means, I don't think... Do we have a truce? We don't have a truce with them. We could just declare for humiliation and invite Mexico here. But we see that we do have a little bit of a problem in that Great Britain will join against us, and so why don't we not do that? But we could instead declare on these guys for make protectorate, and then the USA joins, but Great Britain doesn't. Honduras is likely to join, Costa Rica is likely to join, but this is all kind of a nothing type of thing, and we could do this and then put in war goals on the USA, notably return state, return Sinaloa, once the USA joins against us. Defensive pact with Qing is a little bit attractive. Do you have a defensive pact with Persia? No, they have military assistance with Persia. That is a little bit attractive here. Not attractive enough, I think, to warrant us spending Diplo resource on it. So we are not going to put in war reparations just yet. We see that, hey, the USA has sided with them, but why can't Mexico be swayed? Mexico's not feeling it, I guess. That's not exactly what we wanted. I think we're going to put in American war reparations and El Salvadorian war reparation. Oh, we shouldn't put in the American ones. We'll put in war reparations on El Salvador, but maybe we just end up just enforcing on El Salvador. I'm not sure. Unless America has decided to incorporate this, we might not be able to land them. I'm not sure what the status is on their army. Maybe we can. Maybe we can if they just do something a little bit too funky. It's unfortunate that Mexico is not a subject yet. We would want to... We can liberate Texas and California, perhaps? As well. And then we don't really want to humiliate them. We kind of like them joining in plays against us. We just like it more when we can get Mexico to join us. And so let's do this. We will take... We don't really want academics in Castile to become more radical. We also don't want government expenses. We'll take this and the prestige. The prestige will actually be good for us maintaining a lot of cohesion and getting stuff. It is a little bit expensive, and there's kind of our saving grace. We'll promote this guy for the approval, and then we will gain a whole bunch of labor. So let's take a look here at what our current status is. We have 4.69 gainfully employed, and so when we put in all these labor-saving PMs, we will see just how many people are fired. And again, that's 4.69 million employed, and we are going to be extremely aggressive with the labor-saving PMs. Let's also put that in. 4.69 million. We're going to put a couple of these in as well, because we know that we have rail transport in a few of these spots. And then we are going to... What am I... I'm looking at the wrong... I'm going the wrong direction. It's these ones. So we will see just how many people we fired down. And as we fire these people down, I think one of these is less efficient than the other ones. I think that the engines one is really inefficient, if I recall correctly, because it only saves 500 workers in exchange for 5 coal, or 500 coal, or 5 coal. No, it looks kind of similar. All right, we're just going to use them in all these because we are having difficulties with labor. So we were at 4.69 million gainfully employed. That number should go down when the thing updates. Maybe the tooltip hasn't updated. So it's gone down by around 60,000, which frees up some people to be employed in various other buildings. Again, we will be moving more people from this lower strata bracket to being in this middle strata bracket as a result of doing this hiring and then firing thing, because if we take a look over here, we had, places that did not have full employment that were mines, and now they have fully employed up, and they also are going to be starting to auto-expand, which isn't something that they could do before. I think that maybe we put on all the sulfur, and let's put on some of these on rail transport as well. We won't swap on all the iron mines because we have some really high-level iron mines, but we'll labor save there as well, kind of coming in on what we're trying to do. We are going to just land them. Actually, it's more important that we actually land the USA first. So we're going to mobilize these guys because the USA is conscripting up. And we're just going to go for the capital. It's unlikely we can go in on the capital here. Midwest HQ. What we're going to do is... Ooh, there's also a bunch defending every HQ. We're going to also mobilize our defensive armies because it looks like they're going to try landing on us. We're going to recruit this guy, put him on defend front, and mobilize this other army. There's 2 armies that are just here that are just going to be only defending, and we are going to just try and keep watch here. These guys, for whatever reason, are defending the Midwest, which is not exactly how you want to do it. Looks like they're sending in multiple landings, so we're going to mobilize that army as well, just in case things get a little bit funny, and just to make sure we don't get randomly bricked as a result of... them occupying all of our army on one landing and not on another, we will just say that this army cannot be borrowing troops. So that 10k is going to always be separate from the other ones. It looks like we are repelling them just fine here to start, and we are going to have, we're going to be landing into a 20, oh, they're just leaving? That's not going to work out for them. So as our navy comes on over, we are probably going to do extremely well landing into the USA. We want to, ideally, if we're going to enforce, we want to enforce on the USA first, because they do not have any war goals on us. So if we enforce on El Salvador, then we will be able to be ticked down below 0. And unfortunately, we get a little bit of that spaghetti. That's the result of them having a ton of different landings simultaneously. And so what we will do is we will keep these guys defending the borders here, but we're going to look to do a little bit of a cheeky reland behind once we get in over here. It looks like we are having progress over here, and so we should be able to land. So what happened here is perhaps going to be like a little bit strange to explain, but there was a battle that was going in order to land on us. And that battle occupied all of our troops, and then what this did is it left another landing just free and clear to come in without being disrupted at all, and that just had 4 battles in a row, basically instantaneously, because there was no resistance, and then they just got in. That's why we had separated one of these guys off and said, hey, you can't borrow troops, because if they can't borrow any battalions, they can't commit everything to one singular battle, unless they are the leaders of the battle. So we maybe should have had both of these guys on no borrow. We're going to put them both on no borrow. So these other 2 landings, they will always be defending into our 10 stack. So you see here 20 stacks, so we might get the same phenomena on another one of these landings, but now each of these landings, they will only land into 10k guys at once. And so by doing that, we can kind of prevent a little bit of mishap, and maybe we can push out the USA here. But we have more overall troops than the USA. Steam Donkey is also spectacular, allowing us to kind of move on up. And we're going to put everything on Steam Donkey immediately. Now remember, 4.69 was the gamefully employed before, and they should be coming back up to 4.69, but now they're going to be in higher flavored jobs. In fact, it's even more than 4.69, it's 4.75, and we do have a little bit of a problem getting people to employ up. We are starting to get to the point where we are pushing economies of scale here as well, in that if we take a look at our throughput, we are getting a lot from economies of scale. This has increasing returns effectively as you start to get closer and closer to level 50. So we're going to put in up to level 30 there. We're going to put a couple of railways there. We are having a hard time employing, but we're also going to make sure that we're going to be exporting tools, because this will allow us to keep the tool price from collapsing. And as long as the tool price doesn't collapse, notably we couldn't export tools to the Ottomans before, those buildings will be profitable. Let's take a look at what we can maybe get done here. For tools, this PM is insane. Unfortunately, we don't have control over that much rubber ourselves, but maybe we do. Maybe we go vulcanization. This PM is really, really good on tools. We could also maybe look towards being able to liberalize a little bit better. In fact, we see what's going to NAT spread to us. So I think we're going to go human rights here, which will help us out a little bit. Actually, let's not go human rights. Let's instead go corporation or corporatism, which is going to give a different ideology to our Catholic Church, which will make it easier for us to keep them happy and help them actually help us to liberalize and do stuff like get rid of, child labor and these types of things. Because we're very handsome and we're trying to ban slavery, we are going to get this on the next tick, of course, because, this is how... the game is bugged, but don't worry about it. I don't know what this is about. We do generate an additional mandate, and now we get the very, very strong freedom of movement level 3, which gives you increased exchange on Arts Academy and universities, 20% migration. This is flat no matter how many levels are. So we're going to grab that, which is also going to apply to our subjects, unfortunately, in terms of us competing with our subjects for labor or for migration. But what we're going to be able to do now... Let's see about establishing some of these colonies more inland. Yeah. Let's do that one as well. But what we're going to be able to do now is we are going to make sure that we have a university in every single one of our states, because each university will give 20% migration attraction, which is quite a lot. We are getting 25% from this edict, and so this was going to represent a power similar to an edict, but without the flat amount that you're getting off the edict. And also, we're going to make sure we have an Arts Academy level 1 everywhere. We saw that one We already had a level up there in the top left, so we're going to come into Galicia and delete that down. We don't really want more than one level. They won't really employ up, but they will give us 20% migration attraction. You can see here, we are getting 20% migration attraction, regardless of if it's employed up, so that is going to be quite strong for us. And we get in over here, so we will start enforcing on the USA. We're going to see if we have some guys pushing. We would maybe want an additional guy to push, so we're going to recruit this alcoholic to get the job done. Shout out to, recruiting alcoholics to lead your military. We do like that one. And it looks like we have pushed them out here, and we should be relatively safe against the naval landings now. So I think we're just going to take this guy, and we're going to... the Philippines strikes again. But it looks like they're not defending Texas very well. So, and I think Texas is what we need to enforce on the USA, a combination of Texas and also... a combination of Texas and Cali. So we're going to put in landing over there. It looks like we're having a little bit of trouble, so we're going to raise the conscripts we had set up earlier to maybe give us a little bit more chance or odds here. We don't want to get pushed out here. This looks like we are getting maybe pushed out a little bit here. We have, in terms of the USA, we can check and see just how closely they are to piecing out. I believe. Their war support is still plus 68, so that's quite a lot. So they're not very close, but we do get in here on Texas. And we're going to make sure that this landing squad, which is going to be able to push really quickly, has everyone on rapid advance or pillage. We do like pillage as well. Let's do rapid advance. But they are going to be able to sweep through really quick here. We're going to take our landing-only squad army, and we're going to look to land it in Cali, just to make sure that we get that in. And now they're going to have to struggle between deciding where to put their armies. It looks like they do have 2 landings, or just 1 landing coming in. We should be able to deal with that pretty handily. And so, keeping an eye on our queue. Our queue is having some trouble, kind of keeping up with things. These are about to finish. I don't know if they're going to be that profitable is the problem. We're going to put in, we see the steel mills are really profitable, so we're going to put in several steel mill levels, but we see that this is profitable enough to employ. We see that we do have peasants, and so we do have plenty of room for them to employ up, courtesy of our labor-saving PMs, which is also kind of why we dropped our SOL a little bit. We got a little bit gung-ho with that. We're up to 300k peasants, so we should have throttled that a little bit more, because we put in so many labor-saving PMs, but in the long run, it is going to be good. We're going to check this guy's ideology. He is an interest group leader. We see that we don't like it very much, so we're going to do this. And then I think that Western Andalusia getting radicalists here or there. We're going to take a look at our clout here, and we would kind of like more clout on the trade unions, so we're going to go with this. It is going to give them more approval. They're approving either way, but this will be good. Let's see if we can reform the government in any sort of way. No, we can't. We do get slavery banned in here, though. I think we will conclude this war, at the very least, to kind of round out the episode, but this is a big thing that we wanted to go for. But now we can go for no migration controls. It will radicalize the petite bourgeoisie here. Is the petite bourgeoisie in government? They're not. But it is going to create a situation where they will get revolutionary, and we don't actually have to deal with that situation if we do this. We're going to do this, and then we are going to promote to government this individual, grant leadership, and so now the PB... Now, the PB, well, first of all, the Radical gets along quite well with the Progressive Party, so we actually have contested government over 61 before it was under 61. Ugh. We hate the tax waste, that's kind of annoying. But now, they won't be as upset with us if we do go for no migration controls. We can see they will only be going to -9 rather than this huge minus figure. Oh, just kidding, from 8 to 12. Oh, they're upset about us doing other things. Well, we see that she is on expensive tastes. Maybe we want to get rid of her because we actually don't like tax waste. And the Radical will be a fan of us getting off of this, so we would be able to go Parliamentary Republic quite quickly. And this would allow us to kind of get things done. We could get off child labor. I don't think we want to do that just yet. We could go public health insurance. Our devout wouldn't get super pissed at that. And public health insurance is way better, so this is maybe a bit of an option. I think that we're just going... This is the law we want most, here's the thing. And to some extent we could do this and achieve a sort of similar effect. But in terms of allowing more people to come to our country, which is really the rub here, If we go to a parliamentary republic, though, we can get rid of her. Because now the expensive tax waste is a really negative modifier. We don't like it. It destroys money. I'm not sure if you can overcome it with extra bureaucracy, or if that flat amount is always going to get applied in terms of the tax waste. I'm not 100% sure on how that works, and we're not going to try and check it right now because we are showing everything. So, I mean, the fast thing would be to go dedicated police force. I think I just kind of don't want to make the petite bourgeoisie revolutionary here is the thing. So why don't we take a look at what they support in terms of laws that they like. They like us passing no home affairs, which is interesting. Dedicated police, they would get +5 from that. Rights of assembly, they kind of like. Let's maybe just get dedicated police, get them a little bit happier, and that will be a little bit better for us either way. And then this war, we are sitting on USA's capital, so USA's war support should tick down pretty quick. Spanish-French Association, we could get more loyalists, or we could get legitimacy. If the legitimacy will bring us over a breakpoint, we'd be about it, but instead, kind of happy to make the trade unions more loyalists, which is going to help us to maintain bonuses over time. Really kind of having a good chunk of loyalists that are coming down. Why is the loyalists coming down? Pop's dying. Shout out to that. Also, why is the radicalism? Let's check. Decreases in standard of living. We did have okay, the standard of living did take a big tumble because we fired a bunch of pops, so this is going to be why that's going on. We see that we have no infamy right now, and we want to have infamy, but we want to do something useful with it. Maybe it just is subjugate Persia here to get that adjacency with Russia. We see that Great Qing joins, but what Great Qing? Do you still want that defensive pact, my guy? Let's make sure they don't have an agreement with them. They have military assistance, but I'm not sure if they can join. I don't think they can join against us if they have a defensive pact with us. They might be able to because it's an offensive war. I actually can't remember the rules. So we'll do that and see if we can go after them. Which would give us an adjacency. Yeah, so now they can't join here. Is there a better way to get an adjacency with Russia here, though? It doesn't look like it. I don't see a good spot other than subjugating Bulgaria instead, I suppose. But I think that'll end up being like a similar amount of... I think that'll be a similar amount of infamy here. So diplomatic demands. Let's see if we just subjugated them, make protectorate on Bulgaria. How much does it cost? 15. Actually, I think we like it more. I think we like that more. So we're going to do that. We're going to go for Bulgaria, subjugate them. They're also European, so we can siphon off their pops as well a little bit easier than we can, you know, non-European pops, so that'll help. Normally, going for Persia would be better, but I think in this instance, Bulgaria might be a little bit better, so we're going to go after Bulgaria. Balkans' interest is active, so we are going to see about protectorating them. This is going to be really good for increasing our trade, and it looks like no one is very likely to meddle with us here, so... this is going to allow us to run overland trade, which is great because we're running out of convoy opportunities because we aren't really... we're not taking other stuff. I guess we have Belarus. And that's going to allow us to increase trade a little bit here. Looks like we have encountered some resistance in the USA. I guess we could bring these guys over. The thing is their conscripts are starting to really kick in quite strongly. We could look to pull a little bit of pops from everywhere to help join our conscripts. I think that's what we'll do. Because we have kind of a few unemployed pops in some places, some peasants, and this will be maybe enough to hold here. And I think that we don't need to advance anymore because I don't think that's going to be effective. So we'll just look to stay put and not get pushed out. Luongo. We'll just do the one that gives us a little bit of extra support. Dedicated police should happen pretty comfortably either way. On defense, if we're just defending, we will have a much bigger, we will have a much easier time killing them down, and so this is why we swapped to all defense, because we don't actually need to get any more territory in order to enforce our war goals. We are pushing over here, but that's just because Big Sad. We want to keep them pretty occupied. I guess we could assign to a different front and push that front out quicker, but we're just not beating this army actually right here. We could just avoid. Shout out. Let's maybe do that. Let's land those guys. Just kind of enforce the primary over there. It's a little bit risky because we might not end up enforcing on the USA as a consequence, but if our guys can hold on here, we will be able to enforce on USA either way. Because they are going to tick out before we do, because they are their war support is minus 56, and so we might even be at the point where we can enforce on them. We're just going to keep doing the one that gives us migration attraction here, but that's going to be good for us because rubber is going to be a little bit difficult for us in a general sense. We're actually going to come in and get that started in terms of auto-expanding. We don't have any rubber demand, so it's not going to do anything yet, but that's going to smooth things out when we eventually get rubber tools as a PM. Now that we've discovered a little bit of rubber, we could even consider going vulcanization next. I think we're going to go electrical generation next. We enforce on El Salvador as soon as we land them, and then USA is going to shortly follow here. And so we will look, what type of army do we need? Looks like we will need a fairly big army. We enforce on USA. We will need a fairly big army. What we're going to do is we're going to get rid of all these conscripts. And so now this is a 50 stack, and we're going to land the 50 stack here in Bulgaria. And then we do not need these guys mobilized anymore, so we will demobilize them. Very, very shortly, we are going to have that super nice additional kind of trade here with Russia. So it's a bit unfortunate we couldn't just go for... well, we could have just gone for no migration controls, and maybe we should have. Just the dedicated police forces are going to pass so easy, and then the PB will be happy with us. So I just think that it's like a convenient enough kind of stop through. If we could get up to 90 legitimacy, that'd be fantastic because we'd pass laws really quick. We're going to increase this temporarily just so we can put in another consumption tax. I kind of don't like the looks of any of them, actually. What we could do is we could increase and then look to put in a decree. We will put in not greener grass campaigns. We'll promote social mobility in the capital. I think we're at a point where the extra education access is going to be good for us. Our SOL is kind of in a little bit of a free fall. You know why the SOL is falling? Is because all our trade routes have decreased in size as a result of not having enough convoys to run all these trade routes. And part of that is because we were using convoys for supply routes, I think. And now we're not using quite as many. But when we had a lot of troops over in the USA, I think that was what was maybe driving that. Political migration. We will see who is joining. Francisco Montt, trade unionist. I think we'll say hello to you. Freedom of Starve, our favorite. Increased trade route volume, we're happy about. You know, the stuff will be good for our lower run pops, but we'll see if we can import any more grain anywhere. See what the productivity looks like. We are importing from Russia, so notably, Russia we currently have to use convoys in order to import from. Pretty soon we will have free levels. Do we want them to join the anti-Ottoman society? That is a little bit of a quandary. Normally the Ottomans are really nice for beating up on. I think we will have them join. The Ottomans are nice for beating up on because normally when you get pretty large, you can still get movements against them or interest group things against them, and so this will be good. Looks like our landing is coming in, which is nice. We're a little bit concerned that we might not be able to land once they fully mobilize, but we have better PMs, it looks like. Let's see what we actually have on these guys if we're using everything. We can add in tobacco to the mix. We have a lot of tobacco. We don't have a lot of opium. That's why we're not putting in opium. We see that our queue is stalling out a little bit, which is not ideal. I think what we're going to do is we're going to add a bunch of rubber, because we know we're going to want the rubber eventually. And we're going to see where we can do fish domestically. We still have a little bit of labor in Andalusia and Asturias, so we will look to max that out. We're also going to take a look at logging camps. As much as we like getting the free construction or this faster construction from our company, we do want to keep the queue going. We do want to de-peasant, and so this is going to be good for us. We see that we're at 380k peasants. Gainfully employed is going up. Overall pop is really cranking up too, quite strongly. Just kind of waiting on enforcing this war. In fact, I don't think that we necessarily have to enforce this war, but let's take this tick off on dedicated police. We don't get it passed. Big sad. We're going to go with this option. And we'll get it past next tick. But I think we're going to conclude the episode here because we've gone on way too long. In fact, this episode, we have been mainly focused on trying to liberalize things. We were working really well in terms of increasing SOL, and then we kind of fell off when we put in too many PMs that fired off pops, but now we have more peasants to utilize here, which is going to help us out quite a lot in being able to bring pops up. If we take a look at the population kind of graph, this one's slightly increasing, and the middle strata should be very sharply increasing, and this is because we're using the labor-saving PMs. We're increasing the proportion of people that are working in any sort of manufacturing we have that are middle strata. This also happens as you increase PMs. PMs will, better and better PMs as you get later and later in the game, will also do the same effect, like as we see if we take a look at here. These PMs here have 4k pops, or sorry, 5k total pops, but 3,500 of them are laborers. Now 3,000 of them are laborers. So as you turn on a lot of later PMs and also start to use labor-saving PMs, your pops will get richer and richer overall in the aggregate. And so this is kind of what we've been a little bit focused on, is like trade, trying to pass some laws, trying to liberalize. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get free trade in, freedom of movement in, but we did ban slavery this episode, and we also got onto census suffrage, and local police force is all but achieved. And so this is definitely some strides in the right direction as we move along. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, do the YouTube algorithm thing. And other than that, have a good one.